We come to our third panel. Since 1994, the United Nations Industrial Development Organization, UNIDO, in collaboration with the United Nations Environment Program, has established more than 45 cleaner production centers in order to reduce consumption of raw materials and the use of energy. A very successful program, and this will be the topic of our last panel discussion. So let me begin by introducing the panel members. Dr. Tran van Nhan is currently director of the Vietnam Cleaner Production Center. He is also an associate professor at the Hanoi University of Technology. His main activities include training and research on environmental technology and management. He has written and co-authored several books, among which are Environmental Ecology and Wastewater Treatment Technology. Dr. Heinz Leuenberger, who is the director of the Environment Management branch of UNIDO since March 2006. The branch is responsible for activities to resource efficient and cleaner production. Dr. Leuenberger coordinated the redesign and strengthening of the global joint UNIDO-UNEP resource efficient and cleaner production program. He is also currently involved in the design of the Green Industry Initiative. Thierry Buchs, who has just become head of the Trade Promotion Division of the SECO. Before that, he was head of the Economic Cooperation Program in the Swiss Embassy in Bogota, and he was responsible for following up the implementation of the Swiss Economic Development Cooperation in Colombia. He has extensive knowledge of the situation in South America. So before we begin our discussion, as we know, we will present a small cartoon to understand what cleaner production centers are.
In developing countries, many industrial enterprises do not make efficient use of raw materials. They therefore have a high consumption of all kinds of resources. It is often relatively easy to reduce the consumption of raw materials or the use of energy by following the advice of professional consultants. Switzerland has supported, in partnership with UNIDO, the creation of cleaner production centers, or CPCs, for more than 20 years. CPC consultants analyze an enterprise's resource efficiency and make proposals for improvement. The proposals vary in terms of cost, time, and financial implications. So-called quick wins, for example, saving electricity, can be implemented immediately without additional costs. Thanks to CPC services, enterprises not only become more productive and cleaner, they also have a better cost structure and are more competitive, and thus become more attractive to international partners.
So, Mr. Nhan, the CPC in Vietnam exists since 1998. Can you describe the concrete services that the center provides? Here's your microphone.
Okay, thank you for your question. So, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and distinguished guests. Before I answer this question, so I would like to thank our organizer to give me an opportunity to be here with you and to share some information about activities of our center. So the Vietnam Cleaner Production Center is the spin-off for long-term cooperation between the Hanoi University of Science and Technology and UNIDO with support of SECO and SECO. And nowadays you have 19 staff, and we provide that mainly service on the training, raising awareness, and consultancy, as well as the technical assistance to enterprise and the organization in the following topic. Number one, that's a cleaner production and cleaner production assessment at the company. Number two, that's energy efficiency. And number three, that's the development and implementation of the cleaner technology project with support of the Green Credit Trust Fund, which established by SECO in Vietnam in 2007. And The first one, we also offer that is office clean production with the other aspect look like the environmental system, or combined with the social corporate responsibility, or that responsible production. And recently here, we also provide that new service that combine clean production with sustainable product innovation, and also resource efficiency and clean production. And we very successful in that is provide service on application of resource efficiency in the supply chain for some international supply chain in Vietnam.
So, thank you. Mr. Leuenberger, what were the reasons and the concept behind the creation of CPCs in developing countries at the time?
The program was started after the first Rio conference, and because it became very obvious that especially SMEs are using the resources, energy, water, material in a very inefficient way. And if you optimize the production process, you can reduce energy consumption, material consumption, water consumption between maybe 20%, in some cases up to a factor of 5. By doing it, of course, you are also reducing the emissions to the environment, so the company becomes much cleaner. But in the same time, you also reduce the production costs, and the company is much better, is more competitive in the international market.
Okay. Mr. Buchs, CPCs have also been established in Latin America, but they have not been established everywhere. Why is that? Do you need certain local criteria in order to create them?
Well, as a typical economist, I would say yes and no, because it depends. It's true that cleaner production centers have been established in waves, in different stages, and beyond the first pilot stage, which took place right after the Rio conference. Basically, the idea was not to establish very specific criteria, but to look for specific components. Number one, the interest of a host government. What is actually the, are the right framework conditions in place? What is the commitment of the host country? Is there any kind of vision? The second component, of course, is some donor money, some seed money, and this is where the Swiss Development Corporation came into piece. And the third component has always been what's basically the specific context analysis. Because one of the things you see with the establishment of the cleaner production centers is that there's no one-size-fits-all, and the establishment model, the institutional model has been very different from establishing a CPC in partnership with a university, with a public research center, even within a government agency or a chamber of commerce or the private sector. So at the end of the day, you have to look for what's the best solution without forgetting the human factor. It's all about a driving force, for instance, someone with a vision who could actually drive the project. So this is more the combination of those different factors than clear criteria that have guided the establishment of CPCs, first of all in Central America, and then Colombia came into place in '99, and then Peru in 2002, 2003, and so on and so forth.
Mr. Nhan, has the demand concerning the services of the CPC changed over time, and can you tell us how they've changed?
From my point of observation, is I saw that is the need of the enterprise it changed not from very single CP assessment at the company. Now they move the need to support them in terms of the cleaner technology innovation at the company, and especially improve their competitiveness in the market.
Okay. The global context has changed markedly since the beginning of the CPC program, and thus the concept of EcoIndustrial Parks was created. And here is more on that subject with a cartoon.
Industrial parks offer ideal preconditions for targeted implementation of resource-efficient and cleaner production methods. They host numerous industrial enterprises in a clearly defined location. The enterprises share a common infrastructure, including energy, waste disposal, and water. Thanks to CPC Consulting Services, Individual enterprises can reduce their use of resources. Industrial parks allow to obtain an overall picture of resource flows and to leverage synergies between enterprises. By applying cleaner production methods, industrial parks become eco-efficient. For example, if one enterprise produces too much waste heat during its production process, it can contribute to a reduction in heating costs in another enterprise. By optimizing their shared infrastructure, the resource efficiency of both enterprises is improved. Consequently, enterprises in an eco-industrial park not only produce more efficiently, but also have a better cost structure, are more competitive, and can grow more sustainably. In eco-industrial parks, cleaner production methods can be applied more broadly and thus have a higher impact.
Mr. Leuenberger, can you describe for us in more detail the context and the concept of the RECP program?
Yeah, I think we have heard it today in many cases that, first of all, industry is responsible for 1/3 of the greenhouse gas emissions. And we have heard everybody wants to grow. All the countries have industrialization plans. We have very soon 2 billion people more on this planet. So in one way, we need to decouple economic growth from the consumption of natural resources and also the emissions to the environment. Now we have seen that resource efficiency is one important first step to go in the right direction. And we have hundreds, if not thousands, of very good examples all over the world. But what is missing to have a real impact is to scale up. We have heard it also many times today. And to have, if we tackle one company by one SMEs, it will be an endless task. In industrial parks, you have 500, 600, 700, up to 2,000 companies in one area, and you can do CP assessment, cleaner assessment, awareness raising, capacity building at one place, targeting many companies. And also, eco-industrial parks offer us an opportunity to go one step further, and because you still have wastewater, you still have waste, you still have air emissions, but you can, in many cases, you can use them for another purpose in another company, or at least you can also treat and clean them in a common treatment facility. So I think it gives us a very good opportunity to scale up our activities and to have a much higher impact in decoupling and also in the emissions, reduction of the emissions to the environment.
So, Mr. Buchs, we've just heard about the upscaling potential of the eco-industrial component. How does this fit into the SECO strategy?
I would say that it fits perfectly because it ticks all the right boxes in terms of fostering energy efficiency, first of all, in terms of fostering renewable energies, and in terms of fostering the sustainable use of natural resources, but with the scaling effect. It's all about maximizing the impact, and as Heinz said, avoiding this tedious quest for an impact at the SME level, SME by SME. So I think in this case, size definitely matters, and it's all about impact. And it's also an opportunity to create synergies which otherwise would not exist. Let me illustrate the case with an example. Let's assume that in an eco-industrial park, you have several hundreds of companies trying to use water more efficiently with an environmentally efficient technology. They will nevertheless produce wastewater, but they could use the same wastewater treatment plant. In turn, depending on the technology used, this wastewater treatment plant will emit gases. This gas can be recycled and used for energy purposes for the same companies or for the same wastewater treatment plant. And anyone who's been around of a wastewater treatment plant knows that it stinks a lot because of the muds it produces. But with muds, you can do a lot. You can do construction bricks, and you can use those bricks as well as combustible, as fuel for heating purposes, or as part of the production or manufacturing processes of, let's say, cement companies, which coincidentally happen to be active in the industrial parks as well. With this, you can have actually a larger impact, which is exactly at the core of the Swiss economic development strategy.
Mr. Nhan, there is in Vietnam an initiative to implement industrial parks. So what are your expectations?
I think with this project, we expectation the first thing that this project can help the Vietnam's government to build up capacity for the staff at the mission board of industrial park to manage their activities with application of the most sustainable manner in order to support the company operating in their industrial park. In second thing, also through these activities, we also can support the company multiply to industrial park, multiply of the result of the project to the other industrial park as quick as possible.
Mr. Leuenberger, local economies have strengthened, but environmental conditions have deteriorated. We've heard this throughout the day, and the need to address climate change has become more and more urgent. Is that a message you think that small and medium enterprises understand and prioritize?
Well, I think, maybe we also have to be clear that the emissions of greenhouse gas or climate change is only one aspect of our, in a way, economic activities. But we also have groundwater pollution, we have surface water pollution, we have a real waste problem, we have land degradation. And I think SMEs are maybe in some cases more aware of these local or even national problems, when they see the river is completely polluted or the groundwater level is going down and the groundwater is polluted. So I think it's very important to link also these activities to the direct environmental problems companies have in their neighborhood. That's one aspect. And the second aspect, I think SMEs are also forced, to participate in the international supply chain. And there I think, for example, multinational companies have a big responsibility also and a possibility to influence SMEs within their supply chain to become much more efficient and cleaner.
Mr. Buchs, do you see a lot of differences between Asia and South America in accepting the need to create sustainable economic development?
Well, this is a tough one, because which Asia are we talking about and which Latin America are we talking about? But I would say that in general terms, there is maybe a slight difference because of the, I would say, the conditions in which they operate. Let me elaborate. I think if you look at industrial production worldwide, well, basically 60 to 70% of it occurs in Asia. We're talking about factory Asia. Well, that's not the case in Latin America, and it's true that the integration of Asia in the global supply chains is actually much larger, which creates all sorts of direct and indirect responsibilities for large companies, and this is basically what Heinz alluded to. These create some additional pressure. This is less the case in Latin America because it's less integrated into the global economy. The other sizable difference is when you look at who is basically polluting, who is emitting carbon dioxide. Well, again, at the level of Asia altogether, this is roughly half of the emissions. In the case of South America, this is roughly 5%. So the pressure is not exactly the same, and the integration into these global supply chains is not the same one. Nevertheless, it's also a slow process in which there are additional pressures taking place in Latin America. In the case of Colombia, one of them, which is very specific, is that Colombia is an official candidate to become an OECD country. Here comes the OECD with tons of environmental studies, with tons of assessments of how effective is the implementation of the regulatory framework, and this is when things start to change. Regulations become more stringent, and the pressure on all sorts of companies, including SMEs, is mounting. So I think there's a slight difference, but I think there's definitely a certain convergence over time.
And to conclude, I will ask Mr. Nhan, excuse me, a last question. How difficult is it to get small businesses to understand the need to create sustainable industrial development in Vietnam?
I think that main difficulties is the SME in the Vietnam that they maybe they still use, I think 50% of them still use very absolute technology. So now for them can compete in the world market. They should the first one, the apply the resource efficiency and clean production. And then that can help them to cut off the production costs as well as environment costs, and is to comply with the environment regulation and also improve that is the social aspect of their business. And the second thing that is we also need to create some condition for them easy access to the financial source to support them in the implementation of technology innovation as well as other sustainable production manner, because now they are facing problem very difficult to access to financial source.
Thank you very much. Thank you, gentlemen, for this last panel.